Well, hi everyone. My name is Dr. Jeff Schroeder, and I am your instructor for your next course in the program, which is NU601, The Principles of Healthcare Research. Each week I'll be posting a introduction video. I started doing these videos a couple years ago because I found that it helps to make the class, I think, feel a little bit more real, and certainly I know from my perspective helps me feel like I'm connecting with the class a little bit. Each week I'll be going through and reviewing the previous week's discussions and reviewing some of the main points and kind of summarizing those things that I think are most important. So I'll be looking for these. I usually post them on either Sunday evening, right at the end of a week, or sometimes very early on Monday, or really late would be Tuesday. But pretty much, unless I'm running into technical issues, I like to post these each week, and they are specific to this class, so they're not just canned lectures that I do that are broad and they focus on the real discussions that we're actually having in court in the class. I will leave you to review the syllabus just very quickly. This course is essentially, it's 8 weeks long. Each week you'll have a discussion question. Each one of you has been with Sacred Heart University for at least several classes, I think, or at least some classes. So you probably have a pretty good feel for how the flow of the courses go. Of course, each week, discussion question. Initial responses to the discussion questions should be posted by Wednesday at midnight, and then with a minimum of 2 responses posted to peers no later than Saturday night. The responses, by the way, should be posted throughout the week. In other words, just posting an initial response on Wednesday and then coming in and writing 2 responses on Saturday night will not gain full participation points. Really, the whole idea of discussion is to have an ongoing discussion and to check in a couple, 3 times during the week and post throughout the week. In order to receive full credit, you have to exceed the minimum. And so that's generally 3 or 4 responses posted throughout the week. And of course, the depth and the quality of your responses is important as well. So if you want to receive full credit for those, remember, it's the quality of your responses, not just the number of responses. And so I'll leave you to review the rubrics for those. I follow rubrics pretty closely, so if you're participating 3 or 4 times a week, and it's evident that you're kind of participating throughout the week and are answering questions that are posed to you either by myself or by other students, then you'll be getting full credit. In weeks number 5 and 7, you have 2 written assignments, and I'll talk about those when we get closer to those. Just know that those 2 assignments are going to be a critique of a research article. In week number 5, you're going to be looking at a quantitative critique, and in week number 7, a qualitative critique. And again, I'll cover those a little bit later in the class as we get closer to those. You're also going to have an examination, midterm examination, and a final exam. Those are going to be in weeks 4 and 8. Those will be multiple choice tests. They are time tested. They are going to be set up in Blackboard. And again, I'll be covering those as we get closer. But what you want to do here at the beginning is to go look ahead and look at the study guides. There are study guides posted for those examinations, and you want to review those starting either this week or in the next couple of weeks, just so that you have an idea for what's going to be coming up on those examinations. And that really is kind of the whole basis of what your grade's going to be based on. Those discussion questions each week, your 2 examinations, and those 2 critiques. There's no long papers in this course, although the critiques are fairly involved, but they follow a template. And again, I'll talk about them a little bit as we get closer to their actual due date. And in week number 1, we start a discussion of research from a very broad perspective, and really just talking about the different types of research that we have. The discussion question this week is going to be, there are 2 articles posted, and you can find those in the e-reserves. One is a study by Beck on the post-traumatic stress disorder due to childbirth, and this is a qualitative research article that addresses and talks about post-traumatic stress. And then the Kolkaba and Dowd study is one on the efficacy of hand massage. And they're both pretty interesting articles, but really the whole point isn't so much to really talk about the content as much as to talk about the research design. In nursing research, there are two broad categories of research. The first is quantitative research. Quantitative research is probably what most of you think about when you think of an actual research article. It is one that has a specific variables, usually a independent and a dependent variable, measuring some specific outcome. And a quantitative article or quantitative study is one where we really look at what are the relationships between two sets of variables, between one action or, for example, one nursing intervention on some specific measurable outcome. And it forms a very important part and a very important foundation of research, because measuring outcomes and being able to measure what we're doing is really an important part of research. But there's another type of research, and that's called qualitative studies or qualitative research. They're much broader and don't rely on or don't require measurement of variables. The way that I describe a qualitative research study is where a researcher sits back and says, we really don't know much about a particular phenomenon or a particular thing. And so we just want to maybe find some new questions or try to find information about it. Kind of like a documentary writer does when they're doing, like if you watch a documentary just tries to find a lot of information so that at the end of a documentary you kind of have a lot of knowledge about a particular subject. But it doesn't really seek to measure effect or measure anything. It's just trying to find information. And so that's really what's going on in this Beck article. And the Beck in the post-traumatic stress article is really just trying to find out about what is this whole phenomenon of post-traumatic stress. Not necessarily the causes or not necessarily the effects of, but just what is the lived experience like. And that's really what a qualitative article does, is to really look at what is the lived experience, the values, attitudes, and beliefs of individuals. The Kokaba study is more of a straightforward cause and effect. What is the effect of a hand massage on enhancing comfort for hospice patients? And so I'll leave you to the reading to kind of hammer that out or try to figure out the different types of these two different types of research. And the discussion questions this week will be talking about, was the correct design chosen? Were these good, was the type of the research that was done by these two research groups, was it appropriate? Did it really measure what it was seeking to measure? Was it important? And we'll talk about this, and this is going to be the focus. We'll be talking about these two articles. We'll be reviewing them kind of off and on throughout the class, critiquing them and understanding their individual parts. As you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. I will be checking the class pretty much every day. I'm in class. If you need a quick response, you will probably want to send me an email. If you have a specific response or a specific question about something particularly pertaining to assignment that is just specific that you don't think that anybody else in the class has, or if you have some particular issue, feel free to go ahead and just let me know via email. However, if you have a question either about any of the assignments or any of the concepts, something that you think that it might be good for me to answer in front of the class, go ahead and just post that in the Ask Your Instructor forum. It's much easier for me to just answer one question in the forum than it is to try to answer 5 or 6 of the same or similar questions in emails. So it is nice. I do appreciate it if you would post any question in the Ask Your Instructor forum, because it gives me a chance to give that feedback to everybody. And please, please, please do not ever hesitate to ask any question. I'm more than happy to answer them. That's what I'm here for. And I'd much rather have a question asked than have a student feel like they're languishing or feel like they don't have good direction or feel like they're a little bit confused, because I know how anxiety provoking that can be. I'll leave you to read my bio. I am on the West Coast. Most of the time, I'm down here in Rosarito Beach, Mexico, believe it or not. I live most of the time in Mexico, although do quite a bit of working and teaching in the San Diego area as well. But I am on the West Coast, so remember there is a 3 hour time difference for those of you that are on the East Coast. So if you post something, um, say like late in the evening in Connecticut or in Vermont or New York or anywhere on the East Coast, I probably won't see that question until sometime in the next day. Uh, I usually am in the class sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, but sometimes not until later in the afternoon my time, which would be the evening your time. So note that there is a little bit of a lag time in answering those questions sometimes just because of the time zone issue. I've also posted in the course or you'll see in the syllabus, I do have a cell phone. If you have an immediate need and if you really need a quick answer to a question, feel free to send me a text. A text is something that, or just send me a text letting me know that you have a question in an email or in the Ask Your Instructor forum, and I'll know to get to it a little bit more quickly. Anytime that you want to arrange to meet with me also via phone or via a video connection like FaceTime or Google Hangouts or something like that, I'm more than happy to do that as well. I want to be available to you and make this as interesting and as useful a class as it can be. So with that, I think I will go ahead and leave you to review the syllabus. Let me know if you have any questions. Please post a little bit of an introduction, and I'll be responding to those this week. I look forward to participating in class along with you. I look forward to being your instructor, and I look forward to seeing you in discussion forums.